Welcome to A Friend of Mine, a series of conversations with some incredible and inspiring women in business from regional and rural Australia. I'm Kimberley Furness, your host and the founder and editor of Oak Magazine, and I cannot wait to introduce you to some amazing female entrepreneurs who will share with you their experience and knowledge of what it takes to start, grow and scale a successful business. So let me introduce you to a friend of mine. Karen Hollenbach is the founder of Think Bespoke and revered as the LinkedIn lady. As a mother of two preschoolers, Karen took a brave step from corporate career professional to business owner in 2010 in an effort to carve out a more flexible career, enabling her to leverage her skills and be present for her boys. What began as a resume writing service grew into LinkedIn profile writing for job seekers and self-discovery workshops for professionals in the mid-stage of their career. Karen is now one of Asia Pacific's top 10 LinkedIn experts. Karen shares with us how she started and grew her company, her insider tips and strategies on optimizing your LinkedIn profile, expanding your network and content creation, as well as how to position yourself as an expert. Meet my friend Karen from Think Bespoke. Hello, Karen, and welcome to A Friend of Mine.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. It's my absolute pleasure. Now, we're both Victorians, which makes us very unpopular to say at the moment with COVID.
Yes.
How are you feeling about this second lockdown?
I'm feeling okay because I think I learnt to adjust in the first one, but I would say that I have a lot of people in my community who live in Melbourne who are really wobbly. So I'd say I'm not indicative of the people around me. And why am I okay? I don't know. I think it's just an acceptance, really, of what I can control and what I can't.
Yeah, yep. Well, why don't we go back a little bit then and tell us about your career background? So, how have you come to where you are today?
Well, I'm a corporate escapee. So, in a previous life, I did work as a strategic marketing manager for an FMCG, so a fast moving consumer goods brand, which some of you might know as Stolichnaya Lemon Rusky. It was a company called Diageo, but I was a rep out on the road when Stoli was launched, which was a really interesting time and many moons ago. So I progressed through that organisation, eventually worked out of the Melbourne office, but for the national business, working with some global brands. So that was an amazing experience. And I managed to go on maternity leave twice during that period. And so when I was on mat leave the second time, I actually had enrolled and started to retrain as a secondary teacher because I decided that I really couldn't manage the pretty demanding corporate job with children. And I don't think you can have it all. So it was the start of me really re-engineering my career. And so I was very fortunate to receive a redundancy when I was on mat leave for the second time, which just bought me the space to retrain as a secondary teacher and continue to grow my babies, who were both under 3 at the time. So I had a 5-month-old and a 2.5-year-old. So I then was given an executive outplacement program, which was when I was introduced to LinkedIn. And at the time, it was really my opportunity to escape for a day with really young children and rely on my beautiful mother-in-law. And I went to the professional development that provided. And that's when they introduced LinkedIn to me and said, look, this is a platform that's coming. So this was like 2008, right? This is a platform that's coming. You should be on it. So as my baby sort of got older and I started to think about, I finished my studies and I was thinking about how I was going to re-enter the workforce, I actually decided to establish my own business. So I used LinkedIn to really stay connected with all the other people I'd worked with in corporations and to network. And for anyone who's just started their own business, you really don't have a significant sales and marketing budget. So it was how I sort of raised the profile of what we did. And right at the start, I was a sole trader and just providing resume writing services. Then we moved to LinkedIn profile updates. Then we started to do career coaching because people were really interested in how I'd career transitioned. Then I started to use the LinkedIn company page feature and content marketing as a tool to sort of how I showed up on LinkedIn. And it wasn't long before I had people in my community say to me, could you do for me what you do for your business on LinkedIn? So in 2015, my boys were sort of both at school. And so I got quite serious about my business. Think Bespoke became a company, and we now have 3 parts to our business. So we've got the LinkedIn training, which I'm still very much involved with individuals and organisations. We've got the career management services, and I now have a job search and career coach that works with us. And we're doing as much as we can in the current environment to help people who've chosen a redundancy, including or been, stood down or unemployed at the moment, which is happening across the board. So that's been a really interesting time recently. And then the third part of the business is just that sort of content marketing strategy and showing people how to navigate LinkedIn, but also just connecting all their dots. So their website, their email marketing. So we don't do all of that for people, but certainly we advise and consult in that space. So really just sort of stratcom, strategic comms background, and then a mother who wanted to participate really, really actively in her children's life. And I think running my own business has allowed me to be present with my
Hmm.
children while also engaging really meaningfully in work. And I thought it was teaching at the start. I really felt like doing my grad dip in secondary, because I had an undergraduate degree in marketing, business marketing. So I felt like doing the teaching thing was quite righteous. And, when my children asked me, "What do you do for a living, Mum?" I could say, "I'm a teacher." But I quickly realised it's a very tough gig, and I would have been required to really do my apprenticeship. So I was asked to be involved at the same time as I kind of chose that redundancy and was tinkering away with LinkedIn profile writing and resume writing. I was asked to be a trainer for a boutique consultancy. So I did that for 2 or 3 years when I first established Think Bespoke, and I think it really gave me the confidence to have an identity outside of my corporate self and to really think about, well, who is Karen Hollenbach and how does she want to show up as an entrepreneur? And certainly I look at new businesses starting now and I think, wow, there's so much pressure on you to have a great website and have beautiful branding and do your professional photo shoot and have a great Instagram feed. And there was just none of that when I started my business. It was just, have a LinkedIn profile, maybe have a Facebook account, and just get out there, go to networking events and pitch.
Yeah, yeah. And so, I mean, do you use the other platforms then as part of your marketing, or are you solely on
Absolutely.
LinkedIn?
Yeah, no, I do. So my primary platform is LinkedIn, and as a content marketer, I do view the other platforms as playing a definite role. So Instagram's really where you can just get a sense of me as an individual and work out if you like me or not. So you do get a sense of, which is real, right? You've just got to give
Yeah.
people information about yourself that will help reduce risk to make a decision about whether you're for them. So Instagram doesn't necessarily generate business for me, but it's one of multiple touch points. My blog has been probably the most significant part of what I do. So it's really got a very much a how-to focus. And I'm very much known for that sort of helpful LinkedIn. I might just ask Karen the question and she'll probably answer it for me. And then Facebook is really the domain of the career management services we offer. So I very much see that as more of our consumer services, whereas what we do on our LinkedIn company page is more for our B2B and our organisational services. And I really enjoy Twitter as a platform too, but I tend to use that more as a source of news. And because there's
Hmm.
a lot of activists on Twitter, and because I have a real interest in Indigenous rights and what's going on in that space, I really do enjoy reading the conversations over on Twitter. I don't really engage as much as the marriage that other people use as their sort of relationship with Twitter. But I do really see Twitter as a great source of news.
No, I agree with that. Now, in terms of your business, so you started out as sort of a solo entrepreneur, and you now have a team. Was there any sort of hurdles that you went over to get to where you are today?
There were heaps. And, I started collaborations with people. I started partnerships with people. I started brands with people. We built websites. So I learned so much. And we made, I don't know if they're necessarily mistakes, but just errors of judgment in that being the right path and the right sort of focus. So the model that I've landed on now is very much a collaborative one. So Think Bespoke has 2 employees, myself, full time, and a casual, who's actually my niece and a fantastic videographer. And then the rest of our team, there's 4 or 5 others who, depending on the month, who are contractors and separately and individually run really good little businesses. So I've got a LinkedIn profile writer, a copywriter, a graphic designer, head of online content solutions, the career coach and job search mentor. And that just seems to work well for all of us. And I just couldn't get my head around. I wanted to do the work and I wanted to work with great clients, and I couldn't work out. I didn't want to be someone that managed and led a team. I did that when I worked in the corporate world, and I wanted the flexibility to just show up in my business or not show up in my business. So, one of the key things I do is I try to take at least 50% of school holidays off. And so, having people manage different parts of the business allows me to do that.
That's what I was going to ask as well, Karen. Like, did you ever envisage having a team? But and I know, sort of being in a similar industry as yourself, just with my first business, that you get to that point where you can't do it all unless you're going to put in massive hours. And it's a really big step to engage the right staff and the right employees. Like, was there any trial and error through that, or have you just been so very lucky?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And lots of really robust conversations. So, I did go into partnership with one person around sort of a part of my business, and it just didn't work. Like we both just, and we're still in contact and friends. It just wasn't right for the two of us. And I think it was really diluting the impact I was having in Think Bespoke. I nearly, again, like if I look at sort of the three divisions within my business, sort of the first time and the second time I looked at sort of doing a partnership, and because I have great relationships with the people that I work with and our values are aligned, and we're very open and honest with each other, when we started to talk about how we would go into the agreement, and what sort of the split would be based on my intellectual property and theirs, we realised that probably the subcontracting arrangement allowed us to do great work with great clients and reduce our overheads because we weren't trying to maintain a brand outside of Think Bespoke. And it's interesting, because I see the sort of the trend being, well, the trend used to be, I think COVID's sort of changing everything. And there's some in a good way. I think it's changing some of these things in a good way. There used to be this pressure to sort of scale, um, to be able to deliver a lot, to sort of maybe take on the big team. And when I really started to think about the type of work I wanted to do, I was happy to reduce my margin if it meant bringing in great people to do the work and delivering great outcomes for my clients, because ultimately it meant that those clients would still refer me and I would get more work over time. But that's a journey thing, right? Like I've been in business for 10 years, and I think I have been asked the question, are you a for-profit organisation and a social enterprise? And I am very clearly a for-profit organisation, but I do spend probably about 20% of my time either actively involved with not-for-profit initiatives that other people lead that I'm involved in, or connecting people to help them get more work. And so I sort of had to resolve, when you run a business, you've got to resolve your ego versus your profit goals versus like, what am I actually trying to do? Like, what difference am I trying to make? And I also think, like, this might sound very sort of philosophical and deep, but I didn't kind of arrive, it's taken me 10 years to kind of get to this place to kind of say, well, why am I showing up for work each day? And how much money do I want to earn in order to feel like I'm making a contribution and doing a great job? And I think that's really different for everyone.
Yeah, it is. It's that question of, how am I helping the community, or how am I helping people, that I think about all the time. And I just reflecting back on COVID, and why I can't remember the last 6 months, to be honest. And obviously at home, just doing remote learning with the kids. But what was sort of making me anxious in that was I was feeling like I wasn't playing a role in society. Like I wasn't
Yep.
contributing at all because, I'd had to put the mag on pause. There was no way I could do both. And suddenly I questioned that myself. Like when I wake up, what am I providing? Like what value am I providing to other people? And yeah, does it light me up?
Yeah. And I think it's a great question. You've got to ask yourself.
So I've been following you for quite some time, longer than I have had Oak. I would even say around 2016. So I started my first business in about 2015. And I suppose it's because you had established yourself as an industry expert in LinkedIn. Like, how have you been able to position yourself as, the voice of LinkedIn as such?
Well, no, it's an interesting question because I didn't embrace the title of expert for a very long time. And I have a beautiful sort of inner circle mastermind of three women that there's three of us in non competing but sort of very similar phases of our businesses. And um, we sort of catch up regularly over a, big glass of wine. And I rejected the concept of expert at the start or when I first started to get labeled that way. And it took one of my, inner circle comrades saying, if people identify you in that way and they view you in that way, you just have to thank them for it and accept it. So okay, that's fine, because I'm a lifelong learner. So as a trained educator, I philosophically believe I've always got something new to learn. But as my colleague said to me, well, you can still be an expert and still learn new things. So it was my mentor at the time, and it was as I was sort of emerging. I think I'd established the company. I can't remember exactly what year it was, but I did make a conscious decision to focus in on LinkedIn. And the reason why I did that is Marina, who's Italian, said to me, Bella, your knowledge of LinkedIn is deep and broad, and the way you approach LinkedIn is unique like no one else I know. You have a diamond in your hand and you need to shine it. And Marina's just one of these people that whenever she says something, she's right. And I knew that from sort of other conversations I'd had with her. And I thought, what have I got to lose? I'm just going to go for this. So at the time, I basically rewrote my LinkedIn profile, made sure it focused on my LinkedIn expertise, made sure that I spoke really clearly in all elements of my profile about what I did, how I could help, and what I believed, and then made sure that all of the content I shared and my blog focus and all of the workshops that I ran were very LinkedIn focused. And it's been really interesting because I'm a LinkedIn specialist within a particular space. And so I've learnt to cultivate my industry expertise based on the clients that I really like to work with. So even within the LinkedIn space, my competitors know what my specialty is, and I know what their specialty is. But from outsiders who are not, perceived LinkedIn experts, they maybe wouldn't understand the nuances. But I feel like even from when I've put a line in the sand around LinkedIn, I've niched even further within the type of LinkedIn training I do and the type of client that I'm suited to. And I think what also helps with my expertise is I genuinely believe in LinkedIn as a tool for business. And there are some really key reasons why I love it. And one of them is that the amount of time that I spend on LinkedIn versus other platforms and the return I would get. So I could spend the same amount of time on Facebook and Instagram, but spend the equivalent amount of time on LinkedIn. And I feel like I get a much greater return for my effort. So it's really a commercial decision as well. And HubSpot did a study, I think it's back a few years ago now, but it showed that B2B conversion, so businesses working with other businesses, is 300% higher than other platforms. So it's not just sort of me that finds that spending time on LinkedIn is good for your business.
Yeah. So let's just unpack that a little bit. First of all, I think we all need a Marina in our pocket with those.
Yes. Well, she's available. She's a career coach. She's my career coach for Think Bespoke.
That is perfect because I think, listening to someone validate, how good you are at what you do. And, that comes through years of experience, of where you are and everything. So, yeah, I need a Marina. The
Yes.
fact that, is it women, do you think, that hold back from calling themselves an expert compared to, say, men?
Well,
Or,
that's a really interesting question. So I don't like talking about gender as a rule because I think that women have some women can have masculine tendencies and some men can have feminine tendencies. So I think that there is definitely a personality type. So the label of industry expert, I think some people are willing to embrace it and they're not even an expert. So I think it's something that is first given to you. I don't think you can. So it's not like it's not like I walked away from that conversation with Marina and went, I am a LinkedIn expert. I walked away from that conversation with Marina and said, I need to focus all of my conversations and comms and the way I show up on LinkedIn and the way I show up in my email marketing and the workshops that I run, they have to be LinkedIn focused. So I think you start building your expertise when you make a decision about what do I want to be known for. And so if you can just ruthlessly focus on what's the one key thing I want to be known for, it will ultimately help you cultivate your expertise over time. So I say to clients often, and I think we'll talk about this when we talk about, um, what's best practice for sort of how to write your LinkedIn bio as an example, if we choose to cover that. It's really saying, what do I want to be known for? And who am I trying to influence? So, at a really simple level, I just made this decision. If anyone in my community said, "Oh, I really need help with LinkedIn," blah, 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 everyone would say, "You need to talk to Karen." So, I think because I'd like to think I don't have an unhealthy ego. I definitely have an ego. If anyone tells you they don't, they're lying. But I think I come from a place of serving and I come from the place of helping my community. And so the expertise sort of fell out of it as the default of me saying, I want to be people's number one go-to when they're seeking help with LinkedIn. And so it really helped me when I went to networking events, because people would go, "What do you do?" And this is my pitch. I help people with LinkedIn. And that's all I say. And the minute I say it, the person just says, "Oh my goodness, I've got a question about LinkedIn," da, 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 and they're off. And anyone that knows how to network well knows you've just got to get the other person talking about what their needs are. And then you listen actively and you either work out how you can help them or you find someone else that can. That's like 101 of networking. So I think just that ruthless focus on, what? I can help people with LinkedIn meant that it's all I talked about. And then I got the label. So someone else called me the LinkedIn lady, and I've now inherited that and use it in some of my copy. In 2018, I got identified by the Social Media Marketing Institute as ranked as 18th leading LinkedIn experts in Asia Pacific. And then in 2019, I think I became 8th, or I landed in the top 10
Oh,
or
that's
6th, could be 6th or
phenomenal.
8th. So yeah, so it was a peer review really that identified me in that way. And so it's only been in the last maybe 6 to 12 months that I've been happy to identify myself in that way. But even if you look at my LinkedIn profile, it says, I think LinkedIn specialist trainer. And it was only when COVID hit, so this would have been late March, I finally put in my headline, in the top 10 Asia Pacific LinkedIn experts. So even though I had that label since, I don't know, 2 months earlier, I sat on it for a while.
You had to get comfortable with it. Try it on, see how it fits, and yeah.
Yeah, I had to get comfortable with the discomfort, actually.
Yeah, but that's a very good way of putting it. So let's get into then some, I suppose, LinkedIn tips that can help those that are listening. Why don't we start off with, I suppose, why business owners should be on LinkedIn? Because I feel that a few that are listening are like, I have a clothing store. What's the point of me being on LinkedIn?
Yeah, and I think that's a sort of a valid statement. So I do think it has more of a B2B focus. I think that if you're in professional services, so if you're a lawyer, accountant, etc., it is probably more suitable for you to be active and posting content. But in terms of your digital footprint and being found online, you've just got to come back to this concept that if someone typed in your name in a Google or a Yahoo search, what do you want to come up about you? And so do go to a library, or do go into incognito mode on your phone, on your laptop, or jump on someone else's phone and Google yourself and just see what comes up. Because LinkedIn is such a big platform with so much activity, it is highly likely that your LinkedIn profile will come up first. So I guess the first thing is for that retail store is you want to be in control over the information that's available about you online as a professional. And at the very least, you just want to make sure that when people land on your LinkedIn profile, they can see exactly what you do and just point to wherever you want them to go. And the LinkedIn featured section allows you to do that really easily now. It's also the first place where a lot of people do research when they hear your name. So they'll actually jump on LinkedIn and type in your name and try to look you up. And if you believe the concept that people do business with people they know, like, and trust, which I really do, people like to refer people, they like other people to be successful, then you should write your LinkedIn profile in a way that makes it really easy for people just to pass on your details. So for that particular business type that you mentioned, I don't think they necessarily need to spend a lot of time there. I think they just need to make sure their LinkedIn profile represents them accurately. And sort of I think inverse or the flip of that for me is you can go and look me up on Facebook as an individual, and it will say in my profile, look, I don't hang out here very much. I actually say that. I don't hang out here much on this platform. If you want to find me, you can find me over here. So you've just got to really think about people's online habits and make sure that if they find you on LinkedIn, they're actually going to be pointed in the right direction. Whereas if you are that professional services business, then I'm really going to look up your profile and have a look at what your previous experience was and see if you're credible and see if we've got any mutual connections. And I might go down to the bottom of your profile and have a look at all your skills and see how many people have endorsed you. And I might read your recommendations and see what other people have said about you. It's almost like a individual's very own Google review. So there is not lots of opportunities on your LinkedIn profile to have social proof of what other people think of you. And this is really what LinkedIn behavior is like. For those that don't spend much time on there, it's probably one of the first places people just kind of check you out and look you up. They'll then make their way over to Instagram, and they probably will also look at Facebook. And my hope is that if you're not active on any platform, that you've got your privacy settings locked down, and that you're in control of where you sort of want to point traffic.
Definitely. Now, in terms of our bio then, so that first bit that people see, so our name, our photo, all of that, what is some best practice, like top level best practice?
So write in the first person. So don't write it like it's a third party writing about you. Do write it that it's you writing about you. So I see people make the mistake of, Karen Hollenbach is a training LinkedIn specialist who you actually need to address the reader. So write in the first person. The second point would be understand that people can only view the first 2 to 3 lines of your LinkedIn profile about. So I really do encourage you to use that to address the person that you're wanting to speak to. But even before diving into, what's the best way to use the about, I think you've got to answer 2 questions before you A, spend any time on LinkedIn, and B, tinker on your profile or tend to your LinkedIn garden, I like to call it. And that is, what do I want to be known for? And who am I trying to influence? And that you're really, once you can answer those questions in the context of your LinkedIn profile, you just write for them and for that and nothing else. Because, and you should do the same on Instagram and all the other platforms. But it just means that what you do write is more relevant and powerful.
They're 2 fantastic questions, Karen. And it's actually 2 questions that I think I'll sit on at the weekend and have a little bit more of a think about. But I do know that I updated mine as well, especially the what do I want to be known for? And,
Mm.
the subject that I want to talk to. And it was, I'm passionate about women in business. So it's only recently that I updated my profile to reflect that as well.
I have a little note every 6 months just to make sure my profile is still representing me in the way that, encouraging conversations that I want to get into at that particular time.
Yep. We change as people and, our businesses and the direction that we want to take. And just always editing. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of editing.
Always, I like that. Always editing.
Yeah. Writer, definitely always editing. In terms of that photo, though, I think that's the first thing people see. I mean, it almost goes without saying to go and invest in a professional photographer, though, and maybe not grab your
Yes.
wedding photo and cut the husband out. Like, just for goodness sake, go and get a professional shot.
Yes, I may have a Pinterest board dedicated to LinkedIn headshots, and I may have collected good ones over time, because this is really where people struggle. So yes, I see the wedding shot and I know you looked fantastic, but it's not what you're going to look like when I meet you. And I see the sort of, that old style of professional photography that was almost the glamour shot. I see some of those shots sometimes too and think, no, like that you look gorgeous, but that's not exactly what you look like when I meet you. And look, I had professional shots done, and I have to say I don't blow dry my hair every single day, but I do mostly look like I look in my professional photos. So I just would encourage you to have a sort of head and shoulder shot. Make sure you're wearing something that I would expect to see you in when I meet you for work, and really use the opportunity for, I mean, the professional photographer is your best option. And I'm sure you've got some great photographers in the Oak magazine, in your Oak business community. And so everyone sort of knows who their sort of go-to is. But I would just really also recommend you don't include photos of you on holiday. I see that quite regularly. I know you were feeling really relaxed, but we don't necessarily want that vibe on your profile. And also just consistency. So if you are active on Facebook and you do have an Instagram account or a Twitter account, just make sure the profile photo you use is consistent across the board, and also your website photography. Just consistency is really important.
It is in anything in marketing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. So now what are some different ways to connect people? So yeah, I've got that LinkedIn profile. I actually need to grow, I suppose, my audience, my connections. What are a couple of
Yes.
different ways that we could go about that?
So the two ones I love the most are, well, there's three really. The first one is I want you to think about anyone you've ever worked with, that you're currently working with, that you're currently in conversations with, that you went to high school with, that if you studied after high school, that you went to uni or TAFE or wherever ever that you studied, if you went on to further studies. I want you to think about fellow footy mums, soccer mums, netball mums, and I want you to connect with everyone that you know. I want you to send them a personalized message, so not just flick out a connect via your phone, and just reach out to them and say, look, I'm expanding my LinkedIn network, thought I'd reach out and invite you to connect. Because people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And I said that earlier, and I think that people make the mistake of not realizing that their LinkedIn network and the people that already know them is probably just as important as their potential network. Because when you're sharing content, it's the people that are already your advocates, that already know you, are going to like and comment on your article or your post. And then all of their community will see your update if they happen to be on LinkedIn that day. So I mention this step because I see it as an oversight by many people. Because remember, then if you connect with people on LinkedIn, it doesn't mean they're your friends. It doesn't mean you endorse them in the same way it might on a Facebook page. So if you had that boss that you didn't really love and you haven't accepted the invitation, the Facebook friend, invite them to be a LinkedIn connection. Some of my previous bosses are the ones that have got me into the best conversations for Think Bespoke and my business, if I think back on how LinkedIn and my connections have created opportunities for me. The second one, there's three, is to have a look at the Instagram conversations that you're having. If you're on Twitter, if you're on, God forbid, TikTok, any other platforms, think about, where you're having conversations or engaging with people, and have a look at who your followers are and look them up on LinkedIn and say, hi, I thought I might reach out and say hi to you over here, because you can't tell a lot necessarily from people's Instagram handles. I mean, it depends on how well thought out your Instagram plan is, but you can get a really good look at people from their LinkedIn profile. So that step is called connecting your channels, and just thinking about the conversations you're having over on other platforms. And if you're a business that has an email list, have a look through who's signing up to your emails and make sure within that connect your channel step that you're actually inviting individuals that are on your email list to connect. You're really personalizing your brand when you do that.
I hadn't thought of that one. I love that one.
Yeah. Yeah. And someone said to me, that's a bit stalky, isn't it? And I said, well, I'm the one that writes my email marketing. The emails are always from me. If someone signed up to my email list and then within the next month I sort of go, hi, and I just say, hello, thank you for signing up to my e-insights. I see that you're also in Australia, if they're not in Melbourne. I see that you're in Melbourne. I thought I'd reach out and invite you to connect. So there's no salesy transaction here. It's just thank you.
Yeah, and
Like
it's
you've
all to do with
allowed
that
me into your
note
inbox.
as well, isn't it? Like just
It's yeah.
customizing it, and
It's
not
all
just
about the
flicking.
personalization.
Yeah, yep.
Be human. Have a conversation. View LinkedIn like a virtual room. Don't view it like a sales transaction. Think about DM conversations you have in Instagram. It's the same sort of concept. And then the final one, and you can only do this for the last 5 people that have looked at your profile if you've got a free LinkedIn account. If you've got a premium account, this is one of my favorite features. Have a look at who has been looking at your profile, and if they're a second or third degree connection, so that means you're not currently connected to them, and they look of interest for whatever reason, So don't be transactional, but just they might be of interest for whatever reason. Just reach out to them and say, hi, LinkedIn tells me you're recently looking at my profile. I thought I'd reach out and invite you to connect. So LinkedIn's just like this big virtual room, right? The other thing I do is remember when we used to go to in real life conferences?
Oh, I don't know actually. It's been a while. I'm
So
having withdrawals.
so the other thing I used to do is, as I was, when you get like a booklet relate, like you arrive at that sort of conference and there's this sort of boring first, oh look, I shouldn't say that, but the keynote comes out and you sort of, oh my gosh, I just want to get to the person, the reason I came here, or whatever, or leading up to that conference, I tend to go through all the guest speakers and all the people that have organized the whole thing. And I slowly just make my way through that list and send them an invitation to connect and just say, hi, I'm currently attending, or I will be attending the event coming up. I thought, I'm looking forward to hearing your session. I thought I'd reach out and invite you to connect. Now, if the conference you're going to is within your industry and the people that you're reaching out to are industry leaders, I generally find if you've paid to go to a conference and you're telling them you're coming to listen, they will accept your invitation to
Yeah.
connect. So
Yeah.
that's a really good way to connect to people that, you might have a bit of a sort of crush on, that you think, oh, this person's amazing within their industry, and just be really human with them. Even if you have people that you follow and that you might listen to their podcast or you might, read them, however they sort of show up online, don't be afraid to reach out to them and just say, hi, I'm a huge fan. I see that you're actually also publishing on LinkedIn. I've been following you over here. I thought I'd reach out and invite you to connect. So there is nothing wrong with doing that. Where I see why I'm not offering a fourth step, which is do a search on all the types of ideal clients and then just do a transactional reach out
Oh gosh.
in mail, is I just find that really, really tacky old school marketing. And it wouldn't
Yes.
be my first suggestion in how to engage a
No.
potential client.
No. And I honestly, it's just probably the last 12 months have loved, listening to people on podcasts like Kate from Adore Beauty, and there's a couple of other big names, and reaching out to them and sending that note and saying, hi, I just listened to your podcast, love this little bit, hope to connect, and send it off. And then they, connect back. Now, for me, it'd be the ultimate if any of these sort of people came and wanted to collaborate or work together, but it levels me up as well. So surrounding yourself with leaders in the industry, you sort of feel like, wow, yeah, like you can learn off them and improve who you are.
And that's where LinkedIn's great. So if we go back to that first retail store that, may or may not need to be on LinkedIn, or certainly should have a profile but may not need to spend time on there, it's worth just checking out who your industry leaders are and what their presence is like on LinkedIn, because at the very least, I see so many people that use LinkedIn as their news source. So they actually curate that, they know who they're following, because you can follow all these people. You don't have to be connected to them. So you can follow them. And if anyone ever follows me, each week I'll sort of turn around and go, thank you so much for following me. I thought I'd also reach out and invite you to connect, because it
Oh,
just
that's
feels
a
weird
nice.
to me.
Yeah,
It's
it
like,
does. Yeah.
just let's just be connected. Um, and that's only because I write regularly. But you'll find most of the world's leading thinkers are on LinkedIn.
I really enjoy the content that comes through LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Thoroughly
Yeah. So
enjoy
do
it.
I.
Yeah, which probably is a beautiful segue into the type of content you can post, because I find myself, Karen, I almost have like a bit of imposter syndrome on LinkedIn. Perfectly okay on
Yes.
Facebook and Instagram. Like I can actually be myself on those platforms, especially with Oak. But then I get onto LinkedIn and I get sweaty palms and I think, oh my God, do I have any right in saying this sort of
I
stuff, or should I
hear
write
this
on this topic?
often.
And I just hate it.
Yeah, I hear this often, and yes, you absolutely have a voice and a right, and I want to hear from you more often on that platform. I want to see you turn up on LinkedIn more. So I guess herein lies the opportunity with LinkedIn, and that people are just not 100% sure about how to navigate it. So it just comes back to this idea that I was talking about how did I sort of nurture this LinkedIn expertise and where did it all start? You just need to think about what were my answers to those two questions? What do I want to be known for, and who am I trying to influence? And then you need to look at the different content types available to you on LinkedIn, and I'll just sort of take you through a few of them, and then work out the one that you're most comfortable with. So if you were a really savvy LinkedIn marketer, I wouldn't be saying to you, work out the content that you're most comfortable with. I'd be saying to you, this is the content that's, the algorithm's loving at the moment. But that's not relevant for this conversation. You have to think about, well, I'm comfortable writing an article, or I'm comfortable sharing the podcast, or I'm comfortable, what sort of content do you want to share there? So you then need to look at, am I going to drive most of my conversations through my LinkedIn profile, or am I going to drive most of my conversations through the company page? And what's the difference anyway? And I'd say in most cases, in most instances, it would come through the profile first, but you certainly need to be thinking about how you're building your community via the company page. Because if I'm connected to you as an individual, that does not give you a right to promote to me. But if I follow your company page, you've got greater permission to, tell, not sell your services, but promote what your services
Mm.
are.
I
So
think
then
I've
you
been
kind of
doing it
say,
the
well,
wrong way, Karen. So I've been posting
well,
the stuff on the company page, so the podcast episodes.
yeah,
I go silent on my own profile. I don't know why.
yeah, but that's what yeah, but it's just about comfort levels, right? And that's why I'm sort of saying to you, maybe what you could do, it's right that you're posting it from your company page, but then maybe what you need to do is like, comment, or share on your company page content and say, oh, over on Oak over there, and you're allowed to use emojis. More and more people are using emojis on LinkedIn. I don't love them. I think they're more Instagram territory. And I certainly don't want the block of 30 hashtags like people do on Instagram. Yeah, so from your profile, there's sort of two ways you can do it. So the first way is that you can just have so much go on in the private messaging that we've sort of talked about. But from a content point of view, you need to decide 3 topics that you're going to engage with. So let's use you as an example. One might be regional women in business, one might be women in business, and one might be something else as an example. I'm just sort of making that up. So you would therefore follow authoritative sources via your profile that commentate on these topics. And you would unfollow everyone else on your feed that really didn't share content that you find particularly valuable. And you would curate your newsfeed. So as your newsfeed came through, when you popped onto LinkedIn every day or week, you would either like, comment, or share on the activity that's coming through your feed. And I love sharing this tip because I think people feel like, and you've talked about a little bit of this tentativeness, I've got to show up by posting content. So yeah, it would be great if you did post the podcast and that you did post a LinkedIn article, but just start by liking and commenting on things that are consistent with what you want to be known for and who you're trying to influence. And just kind of practice the LinkedIn content muscle first until you get comfortable with how your community might engage with that content. If you find a really good article, so I do Google Alerts on my 3 topics. So I have saved Google Alerts, they come into my inbox. And if I read a really interesting article, I will then go over onto LinkedIn and say, oh, look, I've just found this article. It's really useful for this, this, this. And I'll mention the organization or I'll mention the person and I'll share it with people. And that's just a ruthless focus on what I want to be known for and who I'm trying to influence. And then I use the hashtag. Like I always use about 5 hashtags. 2, 3, or 4 are related to the topic. And the 5th one is location-based hashtag. And sometimes I'll have a, silly just saying, like a playful hashtag. It depends on what sort of mood I'm in and the content I'm sharing because we really don't want to take ourselves too seriously. And then it's just practicing that. So I would start with share other people's content first. Start with curating your newsfeed, liking and commenting. Set up Google Alerts. Make sure you're then sharing information about content and topics that you care about. And then finally, think about what promotional content, but organizational based or marketing based content you want to share that might be driving people back to your website. Do you feel like that helps? That you have a clearer roadmap as to what you might do on LinkedIn now?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm actually
Good.
feeling a little bit excited by it now. I think you really
Good.
hit on the right word. It's a tentativeness of,
Yeah.
yeah, just thinking, oh, is this the right content to post? But love it, just breaking it down into, say, those 3 topics as well. But I was just thinking, and maybe a little shout out to Ali and Libby, who are from Kindly Darling in Temora, New South Wales. Look, they have a fashion bricks and mortar store with a really big focus on sustainable fashion. And like they're both on LinkedIn and always popping up with articles and commenting on things. And I think it's a beautiful way to build that women in business network for them as well. Like I can see how that works for them and, making connections and then leveraging it for their PR as well. So,
Yeah, and it is, I think we have the opportunity as women in business to go beyond our brand and to share what we care about. So for me, that is right now in this moment, helping people uh, with who are just facing unemployment. So for me, I
mm,
can just see a whole lot of people. I think in 72 hours, 1 million Australians became unemployed, and it's going to go from bad to worse in Melbourne as we speak. So I stepped out of my normal sort of LinkedIn marketing. We've always helped people in the career space, but I never really talked about it because it was always, in the last 5 years, it's always been Marina delivering it. But from the minute that COVID-19 started and I started to really appreciate the impact that it was having, I just stepped into the space of, guess what, everyone, we've got this job application toolkit. You can normally buy it from the website, but it's for free. And I just shared that as an update, and I've sort of I've probably done it about 5 times or 3 times over the period. I also care deeply about the Indigenous Literacy Foundation. So when the Black Lives Matter um, sort of whole conversation started popping up, every time I heard someone sort of say, I don't know what to do about this, or I'm not sure what to do, and I don't know what my perspective is, I just kept mentioning, oh, you should check out the Indigenous Literacy Foundation. Oh, you should check out the Indigenous Literacy Foundation. So I feel like LinkedIn's kind of this intersection of it's very much your brand, but your profile is also, I am this is what I believe in, this is what I'm passionate about, but in a commercial context. So not let's have a rant over on Facebook or let's make it look really pretty over Instagram. It's probably more of a this is my point of view, this is how I can help, or this is how I can see other people helping. And I think for you have a great opportunity to showcase people within your community. And if that's how you choose to show up with content posts from your profile, I think you've got heaps of permission to promote other people.
yeah, and maybe that's where I've just got confused with my talk, thinking that I need to talk about myself or need to give examples of my point of view compared to what I'm doing on the other platforms, which is celebrating other people, which is just so much more comfortable.
You can do that on LinkedIn too, though. Like you just follow their pages, follow their posts, and just like and comment and reshare. It's easier.
Oh, definitely. I think that so many people take so many tips away from this sort of back end of the conversation. I know I have. I've
Great.
got 2 more questions. The first one is just more of a myth buster, Karen. It's, if I have an article, say on my website, do you know what I'm going to ask?
I get asked this all the time. Sorry, that's a
I know,
really
but
evil laugh,
you're
wasn't
an
it?
you are an expert, a LinkedIn expert. I need to hear it from you. Am I allowed to pick that up and post it as a LinkedIn article? Is that right?
Absolutely, you are. So can we rewind? Why would you
Yeah.
not be allowed to?
I don't. I think the myth has been that Google would penalize us for having duplicate content on, say, LinkedIn as well as our website.
So yes, I think from a pure search point of view, that would be correct. So if we had, gurus in this space commenting, they'd be yelling at me if I didn't acknowledge that. However, we are not Coca Cola, we are not Telstra. And so, with due respect to our the impact our websites are having on Google, what I do, so I'll just sort of tell you what my protocol is. I tend to publish my publish my blog to my website because if I was going to be given the choice, I would like my website to be ranked first, not my LinkedIn article to be ranked first. However, the reality is because LinkedIn is such a massive platform and so much bigger than my little Think Bespoke website, it is going to win hands down in indexing every single day. So I think I'm more interested in user experience. So if I publish something on my blog, I will then post it from the company page. I may also then post the link to my profile. And then I will because I publish quite regularly my blog, I don't publish on LinkedIn as a LinkedIn article as regularly. I will then work out what is the LinkedIn version of that, because I'm quite familiar with my blog audience. Whereas over on LinkedIn, I would be more inclined to sort of tuck it in a little bit, and I would tailor what I was saying to my LinkedIn audience. So the Google indexing or cataloging or whatever the technical term is, it's correct that it would get indexed differently. And I don't know sort of the technical terminology, but from a user experience point of view, I just want them to be on both.
Yeah. Yep.
Have I? I mean, I feel like I've sort of confused you with the answer to that question, but
I think it just comes down to the fact that we're not Coca-Cola or Telstra,
yeah,
that it's
yeah,
okay to
and
do both.
yes.
Yeah.
And I've got this article. So, as an example, I've got this article which is identical on my blog as it is on my LinkedIn profile, and it's had 100,000 views on as a LinkedIn article, and it's had nowhere near those views on my website. It's still one of my most popular blogs on my website. I'd love to tell you I had 100,000 views on something, but I don't. And I think it's just a common. And so what's happening is uh, the LinkedIn platform's so big that it's getting picked up over there much more than it's getting picked up on my website. But it's still driving traffic to me ultimately. I mean, I think driving traffic to your profile is gold, because I
It
can
is.
see when people have
Yeah.
been looking at my profile.
Mm. Well,
And
I'm
then I will
glad.
say
That was one of
hi.
my top questions. I'm so glad that from an expert, I know what to do now.
Just do it. And I think it's more,
Oh.
please be focused on user experience and
Yep.
that first, rather than worrying about this sort of stuff, because I want you to do both. But I do have, I'll send you, I've got a, because I get asked this question so many times, I've got a blog sequencing one pager, which kind of talks you through the order in which I think you should do it.
Oh, that's fabulous. I think that's a really common question though for most marketing, isn't it? It's like, I've written a blog post, now what? And it's like, yeah, but you could share that in your email newsletter. It's all about
Yeah.
repurposing that
Oh,
content. We work so
yeah.
hard on those blog posts. They don't just
Put it into visual
happen.
quotes. There's so
Oh
much you
my
can do.
gosh. Yeah,
Mm,
exactly. Pull
mm.
quotes out, use them on Instagram. I mean, there's even YouTube. I think a lot of us forget YouTube as a platform, and how we could maybe work that back into,
Well, it's just as searchable. And if you look at the
yeah.
like writing a description and the meta description and the H1 and the H2 and all that sort of stuff, apparently YouTube's just as searchable.
I would love to do podcasts with video, but I have a really bad thinking face. I think it's called bitch resting
You
face.
should do it. I'm sure it's not bad.
Oh, look, I could actually ask you so much about LinkedIn, and I'm sure that everyone else has so many questions. So I think they can all just go to your blog, because there's so much valuable free content there. And then, go and invest in a course with yourself. I think is so worth it to understand how LinkedIn works, best practice, all of that. But finally, I would love to know, who is a friend of yours that we need to know about?
Yes, I love the idea of sharing this with you. So I have a beautiful human being who goes by the name of Kath Connell, and she has been she started off as my business friend, but she's absolutely my friend now. And she runs a business in the hills here in Melbourne called Wholehearted Marketing. And so the name of the business might give you a bit of a hint about what she's like. And the reason why I think people need to know her is she's the person that I have written a marketing plan with since the inception of my business. So, when you first decide you're going to spend some money on your business, I think doing a marketing plan with Kath was my first real investment in my business. And it's funny because I am a trained marketer, but I do believe in surrounding myself with great people. And so she runs these quarterly and annual retreats that allow you to do your marketing plan. And of course, she does them virtually now. So Kath Connell, Wholehearted Marketing, she now has created this downloadable marketing planning tool, and it's something that I've used within my business every single year. I'm fortunate enough that I live near her, so I can do the retreats as well. But I highly recommend it. She's a beautiful hand holder and just an all round lovely human being. And she just really, we've touched on things today around sort of tentativeness and the reality of having a lot of moving pieces in all of our lives, especially during COVID-19. And so her approach to marketing is very holistic, which I love. And it makes you really think about all the things that I said at the start. How do you want to show up in your business? Why are you really doing this? What difference do you want to make? And I feel like every time I do my marketing plan, I sort of return to myself and can really create a marketing plan that makes me feel proud of how I'm showing up in my business each year.
Oh, she sounds like a wonderful friend to have. Thank you so much, Karen, for being a guest on our podcast. And I cannot wait to follow you online.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Now, before you take off with all that inspiration and knowledge, we'd love for you to leave a review on our podcast so that we can continue to amplify women's voices in the media. And if you have any questions or you'd like to celebrate a win, you can always connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at Oak Magazine AU. I'm so glad we've met and that now you know a friend of mine.